In ancient India, a long, long time ago, back when your great grandmother was probably a little girl, or maybe not even born yet.
Welcome to the In Her Image podcast, where we seek and celebrate our Mother God through scripture, scholarship, the arts, and everyday life. I am your host, Jess Burdett, and today I'm so excited to be starting off this new segment of the podcast in which we share and hear stories from all different cultures, traditions, backgrounds of the goddess and goddess archetypes. So I'm very excited tonight to have a special guest. She has been a storyteller for 15 years, I believe. I first met her in the spring when we did a Divine Feminine celebration here in DFW, Texas. She was one of the presenters for this event, and I got to hear her share some stories from Hindu mythology and theology, and it was such a delight. So, thank you, Jyoti Subramanian, for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. I'm excited about it.
Thank you so much. So, just as a little bit more background, Jyoti was raised in a broad minded family in the cosmopolitan city of Bombay. And her mother is highly spiritual, and taught her about faith in God and being open minded to all religions, accepting people of all colors and backgrounds, and no matter their beliefs. And her father has traveled to faraway lands and has taught her how to live a healthy life in society with boundaries and just an appreciation for life. Jyoti is a member of the Dallas Storytelling Guild. She is a Hindu mythology storyteller, and I am so happy to have you here on the podcast with us tonight. So, Jyoti, I would love to hear a little bit from you of how you got started with storytelling and what your passions are.
Thank you. How I got into it. So I used to tell stories to my nephews and nieces. I was the youngest of five children. So my siblings had kids while I was really young. So I ended up, babysitting children, and and one of the ways to get them to sit and not get into stuff was telling them stories. So I think for real, I got into storytelling when I was really a child. But professionally and up on stage in front of audiences, I started telling stories in 2006 when I got invited by the Dallas Storytelling Guild to tell a story at the Irving Public Library. So that was my debut. And because I was invited to tell stories from India, from the Indian heritage, I started to think about what would people like to really hear from a person who's from India. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, upon pondering, I thought about it for a while, but the first thing that actually made sense was about gods and goddesses, because Hinduism has so many deities and so many figures that represent God, and people usually ask me questions about that when they start getting comfortable with me, and they think it is safe to ask questions about religion. That's the first thing they ask me. So I thought, why not talk about Hindu mythology and tell stories from that angle about the Indian heritage. And that's what I started with. And the children that I told stories to on that particular day in 2006, they loved it. So that was an incentive to keep going. And of course, their parents were there. So it was, there were people of all ages on that one day. And they all seemed to like clarification on what their idea of Hindu religion was. So I stuck with that genre.
Beautiful. I love that it started out with your own nieces and nephews and these children at the library. That's so great and such a perfect place to start hearing these stories and connecting with people of different backgrounds and cultures and histories to kind of start expanding the minds of our youth and our children. So I love that you've had those opportunities, that you've taken those opportunities to share. So for here on our audience, I'll just ask you kind of the same question that you've been asked by others. Would you like to give us a little overview of those gods and goddesses and of the theology a little bit?
Sure. So in Hinduism, also, like in some other religions, there is the Trinity of gods, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So G stands for the generator. You can think of it that way, easier to remember. The generator is Brahma, the operator is Lord Vishnu, and the destroyer is Lord Shiva. So when we say destroyer, we don't mean that he's destroying everything, but it's like when life has lived its span, Lord Shiva is the one who, puts an end to that life and sprouts new life, helps with the sprouting of new life. And it's like when spring, when one season ends, the other season, it has to come to an end. One season has to come to an end in order for the new season to begin. So that's how that is. And also we have goddesses too. So we think of God as the doer, and a goddess as the strength or the energy for the doer. So, goddess would be Shakti. The word Shakti it stands for goddess, but it means power. The meaning of Shakti is power and strength. So, the goddess is Shakti, and God is Purusha, meaning the energetic. So he gets the energy from the goddess, and now he can perform any action.
Thank you for giving us that little background so that we kind of have a better understanding for those of us who haven't studied Hinduism and the gods and goddesses. So we would love to hear from you a story or two. Have you brought any stories with you that you could share?
For sure, yes. I did bring one particular story which uh, I know would explain a lot. I do have other stories which I can tell as well, but I think this one will be a good beginning and it'll give an understanding in a better way. So, before I begin with the story, one thing I forgot to say when I spoke about the goddess is that the goddess is the energy and God is the energetic, right? And there are different forms. I did name three gods: Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. In amongst the goddesses, I didn't name any of them. So the names of those goddesses could be, I mean, there are many, but I'm going to name maybe three or four. So one of them is Lakshmi, who is the goddess of wealth. Then we have Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. We have Durga, who is the goddess of compassion, and she's the protector. She's a typical mother figure. And then we have, say, Kali. Kali is the fierce, angry destroyer. Now, in this case, unlike Lord Shiva is putting an end to the life that has already lived. But in this case, Kali is actually fierce and angry, and she puts an end to evil. So she's the warrior archetype.
Excellent. I'm so excited about these goddesses. I've heard a little bit about Lakshmi. I've done some Kundalini yoga and meditated on Lakshmi and abundance. And I've heard about Kali, and I love seeing images of Kali with her tongue out, and she's blue and so fierce. And I love that energy and that explanation that she kills evil. That's so cool.
All right. So, any more questions on that, or do you want me to start with the story?
I think that's a pretty good background. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So, in ancient India, a long, long time ago, back when your great grandmother was probably a little girl, or maybe not even born yet, that's when there was a fisherman who went out fishing every single day. He lived in a small village, but he went out to the city and went out into the seas, and he caught enough to go out to the marketplace and sell. He made a good living. One day, he was in the deep seas and he noticed that his feet were getting wet. He didn't have shoes on. He liked to be barefoot. And he was confused. Like, where was the water coming from? When he looked down, he saw there was a small hole in the boat and water was seeping in. This could not be happening, he thought. How did this happen? My boat is always in good condition. I take good care of it. And he looked around in his toolbox to see if he could fix that hole. But to his dismay, everything he tried was in vain because nothing kept that hole blocked. You see, this was before the times of duct tape. So he couldn't find the right thing to cover up that hole. And he did what he knew how to do at times like these. He looked up at the skies and he began to pray to the goddess. And for a moment, he thought, who do I pray to? There are so many goddesses. And every day when I pray, I just say Ma. But I think I should address my prayer to one particular goddess so that she can come to my rescue. So he thought in his mind, oh, yes, I've got to pray to Goddess Lakshmi because she is the one, the reason why I come here every day to catch some fish and go sell them in the marketplace, get a little bit of wealth, get some money. I don't have wealth as in jewels and such, a big house or anything, but I have enough. So he prayed to Goddess Lakshmi. He said, Goddess Lakshmi, please, please help me in this difficult situation. You know, I pray to you every day. I pray to Ma, and you're included in that. And you have given me so much, and I want to show my appreciation right now that you have given me enough to support my family. And I usually have a little bit left over so I can make donations and take care of my community. So thank you for all that. And please, please help me out. Rescue me from this difficult situation so I can keep living. And I promise I'm going to start tithing towards worshiping you from now on. And he waited. He waited for a long time. What was happening here during this time was God or goddess. You see, there's no real difference between God and goddess because without God, goddess cannot get all those things done. Goddess is just energy. If you let energy sit there, it's going to do nothing. You need a doer. And without goddess, who is the energy, the doer cannot do anything. So whether I say God or goddess in this story, You know what I mean. It's the yin and the yang balance, it's the supreme power. So, God slash goddess went to her wardrobe and she looked through all of those costumes. Ah, she said, there's the right costume for Lakshmi. And she put it on. Because you see, she had to appear in front of Bhagat, the fisherman, in the form that he was imagining, that he was looking forward to seeing. So she put on her costume, and as she was about to leave the gates of heaven, there appeared a golden lotus and said, ride me, I'll take you down there faster. And of course, she hopped onto the lotus, and as she went down, it seemed to be floating, but it was going at real high speed. And she extended a hand out to Bhagat before she even came down close to him. But Bhagat couldn't see because he was looking down. The water had now risen above his ankles and he was starting to panic. Oh no! The water is rising faster than I thought it would. It's just a small hole. But oh boy, what do I do now? So he looked up at the heavens in another direction and began to pray. Ma Saraswati, please, would you help me? I called out to Lakshmi, but she didn't come. And as he said, Saraswati, Goddess Lakshmi could not do anything except stay there, stare at him. Like, what have you just done? Is what she thought. Because now all I can do is turn around and go back. You have wasted so much time. So that's what she did. She turned around on her lotus and went back to heaven. Goddess went back to the closet, to the wardrobe, and found the right costume of Ma Saraswati. She put it on, and now she was ready to leave the gates of heaven when suddenly this instrument called the veena, it's like a guitar. Okay, it's a stringed instrument. It came floating to her from the skies and said, let me go with you because without me, when if Bhagat does not see me, he's not going to identify you as Saraswati. So of course she did. She held the veena and down they went, cutting through the clouds. And as they approached Bhagat, you know what happened. Bhagat was looking down and the water was now up to his knees. Ah, he looked up at the heavens in all different directions, but the direction where Saraswati was coming from and began to pray. Ma Durga, you are the compassionate one. Yes, you are the mother of the universe. Would you please come and rescue me? Please, please, please. I am helpless. Well, Goddess Saraswati stood there in mid-air, almost near the boat, but she couldn't help Bhagat because she was not Ma Durga. So she turned around and went back to heaven. Now, God slash goddess went to the wardrobe and found the costume of Ma Durga and put it on. And again, Ma Durga was ready to leave the gates of heaven when a tiger approached and said, oh, ride me. I'll get you there faster. And you know I have to go because Ma Durga does not go anywhere without her tiger. And she hopped on, and down they went. And as they almost approached the boat, Bhagat was looking down. The water was now above his thighs, getting up to his waist. Ah, this cannot be happening to me, he said. He looked up at in all different directions and he was trying to figure out where might heaven be? East, west, south, north? And anyways, He looked up all around and began to pray, yet to another goddess. Now, Ma Durga was right there, ready to extend her hand to Bhagat, but instead she had to use her hands to pull the reins of the tiger. And they turned around and went back. Well, this went on and on and on, and the water was rising, and no one came to his rescue. Bhagat was really disappointed, and now it was too late. The boat toppled over, and Bhagat began to drown. And in that moment of fear, he called out from his inner voice, Ma, I am so disappointed in you. Today was the very first time I was desperate for help, and I prayed to you to receive something. I usually just look up at the heavens and thank you for everything you have given me, but you didn't come to my rescue. And he started thinking about his family, his wife, his little children. How are they going to manage without him? And he kept on talking to Ma about how he had done everything, all the right things in his life. And suddenly he realized, wait, it has been a while and I'm still thinking. That means I might be alive. So he opened up his eyes and he saw that he was at the bottom of the ocean. The waters had been parted. The rough waters of the sea were there beside him, but not a drop on him. Ah, I am safe. But who did this? He looked around. He was fearful now. He was really frightened. He looked around to see if there really was a sea monster somewhere about to get him now. Who did this? Show yourself to me. He put on an act of being brave on the outside, but he knew he was just about to be eaten. And as he looked around, turned around a couple of times, he saw no one out there and nothing out there except for the rough waters of the sea beside him. And he could see the path that had been carved out for him to the shore, to land. He sat down there, baffled, trying to figure this out. How did this happen? Lakshmi didn't come to my rescue. Saraswati didn't come. Durga didn't come. And the boat toppled over. There was no help from goddess, from Ma. Oh, wait. I did say Ma when I was about to drown. I did shout out, Ma. And then I spoke to her. Ah, I do remember now. Mother had told me when I was just a little boy to choose who I'm going to pray to and to stick with that one form. If not, I didn't have to choose, she said. You can just say Ma, because Ma, the word Ma just means mother. And she resides in all of those goddesses, all of the different forms. So she will always come to your rescue if you just say Ma. And that's the reason why every day when I thank Ma, I just say Ma. I don't say put a name to it. So I think this is what happened when I called out to Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga. They didn't respond because I was giving them a name, a certain name. Maybe the goddesses with the names don't really come to your rescue easily. See, he didn't know what was going on with the costumes and everything, but he did figure out that if you just say Ma, or if you just say God, goddess, whatever that word is, the generic noun, that is good enough. You don't need a proper noun to address to God. God is just the supreme power, the energy of the universe. The word Om in Hinduism is as good as calling out to God, because Om means one, the one supreme power. And that's the story of God, Goddess, and the supreme power. And Bhagat.
Thank you. That was delightful. I loved hearing about Ma and the goddesses, and that is just such an endearing term. Ma, mother, dad, God. It's such a beautiful, pure way to address our deity. Thank you for sharing that in such a beautiful way through that story. So, how did you find or come up with that story?
My mother had actually told me this story, a shorter version of it, when I asked her, Mommy, Mummy, actually, because in India we say Mummy, Mummy. I said, I pray to God, to the Hindu gods when I'm at home, and I go to a convent. So I go to chapel every day and I say my Hail Marys and Our Father in Heaven every day. So am I supposed to pray to Jesus Christ, to Mother Mary, or do I pray to one of the Hindu gods? I'm a little confused. So this is the story she told me, because she often answered my confused little questions. She often answered the questions of my confused little self when it came to life and friends and relationships and why can't I have this or whatever. And of course, about gods and goddesses. She began to answer with, let me tell you a story. And that's what she said at that moment. Let me tell you a story, Jyoti, and you'll understand. And then she told me this story. And after she was done telling me the story, I looked at her and I said, so, because she didn't explain at that time, she just told me the story that Bhagat prayed to Durga and Saraswati and Lakshmi, and then they were trying to get to him in the right form. And, she went into some of those details. And then she said the boat toppled over. It was too late. And then he drowned. And she left it at he drowned. So the ending, I have modified that to explain that he did eventually call out in his mind, even though he did not verbalize. He said that in his mind. So I did all of that to explain that you don't even have to say anything literally with words. Even if you think something, God and goddesses, they know what you're thinking. There is but one God, and it doesn't matter, right? Whether we say goddess or God. It's that energy, and that energy knows. That energy is our creator. So she didn't tell me any of this. And she just said, and Bhagat ended up drowning. So I looked up at her and I said, okay, so now you've confused me even more. What are you saying? So then she went on to explain exactly what I tried to explain after the story. Like, you just call out to God. You don't have to name God, God is nameless and literally formless. We make up the forms in our minds. So, so that's what happened. And she told me what I say in my story, that Bhagat was told by his mother to just worship. If you want to pick one in a form, choose one and stick with it. Because if you stick with that form, you know, goddess, the first goddess that he prayed to was Lakshmi. She would have been there. She was almost there. But he didn't wait long enough. He didn't trust and have faith. He should have had the faith and just waited. And it takes a moment for the universe to make that little shift. God will come to your rescue. But since he didn't wait and gave another name to God, all of this Leela took place. So let me explain what that means. The word Leela is drama. When drama is being played by gods and goddesses, it's called Leela. So it's a sacred drama. So when you start giving names to gods and you start getting confused, that's when you're causing confusion, because then God is playing an act with you, along with you, because you are playing an act. When you don't have full, complete faith, it's like you're acting, that sometimes you believe in God, sometimes you don't. So, because God feels like you're just acting, he plays an act also. And he brings in the she and the him and the, all these genders and the gender differences and the colors and such. But honestly, we all know within our bodies, there's really no color. And there is no he and she and all of that. So that's what the truth is. If you have complete faith, you can call God even it. And that energy that is God does not care what you call it. So that's my story, and that's how I got clarity from my mother. And she told me, you can go ahead and believe. You want to pray to Jesus and Mother Mary, and that's fine with me too. And that's why I say my family was very open minded. They didn't care, who I would believe in as God, because they knew God is God. Doesn't matter what you label God.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that wisdom of your parents and the story that your mother told you. I love that that's where you first heard it, and it was in response to a question that you had. What a beautiful thing to pass on to us that we all got to experience today. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your talents and your tradition with us.
You're so welcome. This was a joy.
For us as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners today, or anything you'd like to point our listeners to where they can find you, or your Facebook group maybe?
Yes, I'm kind of private on Facebook. I do have a Facebook account. I post just a little this and a little that, just to kind of stay in touch, to say, hey, I'm still on this page. So you don't see a lot of posts from me, but you do. They can find me at Jyoti Subramanian, and I can put it in the chat for you if you want, or I can send it to you, and you can type that name out. Also, I have Hands of Light page on Facebook. I do post a little bit more over there. I teach, breathing exercises and meditation and yoga and such on that page. So they can find me on that. If they just go to Facebook /Hands of Light /Jyoti, I think they might find me there a lot easier, and they are welcome to ask me any questions that they would like answered, just for clarity. I'll be happy to answer them. Also, yes, there is one more message I want to give out with that story. And the message is that God is actually funny and has a sense of humor. And I have felt that. I am very connected to the energy of God. And when I make it difficult for God to reach me, it is very difficult. I can see the difficulties come my way. Or if I also, yes, what I said is true. And also, if I think it's going to be difficult, or it needs to be difficult. And I have a story about how I thought it shouldn't be so easy to get to the top, at the temple of the goddess, because there's this one real famous temple of the goddess in India. And the first time I was going there, I was so in reverence for the goddess. And I thought, it shouldn't be so easy. Like, how is it getting so easy to get there? And she started putting obstacles in my way and making it difficult to even get there. And when I was returning again, I was like, wow, it wasn't so bad after all. And then she gave me another little thing to upset me as I was coming down that mountain too. So so if you think it needs to be difficult, God will, rest assured, God will make it difficult for you to reach him. And if you think it needs to be easy, it will be easy. It's as simple as that. Whatever you think in your mind is what you will manifest.
Thank you. That is a wonderful piece of wisdom there as well. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Jyoti, for everything you have shared. I will share in the show notes for everybody your Facebook name and your Facebook page, a link to it so that you're very easy to find. And Jyoti is great. If you want to connect with her, please do reach out. She's such a wonderful person. So thank you for coming on, Jyoti. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much for having me. Namaste.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. And if you haven't yet, please leave us a review. If you'd like to support the podcast monetarily, you can make a monthly donation at anchor.fm/inherimage. We hope you'll tune in next Sunday for another inspiring episode.